You are about to enter a great adventure.
This is Strutting from Gorilla.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We are doing another spotlight episode, not on the Hardy Boys like it says on the background. Don't be fooled by that. We are actually talking about the Dudley Boys today. So we talked about one set of boys last episode. We're going to talk about the Dudley Boys this time because we wanted to give them, oh, look at that in real time, folks. You saw it here. That was incredible. So we're going to be talking about the Dudley Boys today, and we're doing this in preparation for Vito and I have the privilege now of going to TNA Bound for Glory October 12th in Lowell, Massachusetts. Get your tickets now. And we're really looking forward to the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys having one last showdown against one another. And today is just another one of the spotlights that we're doing to highlight some of their there's the career influences of the Dudley Boys, you know, where they came from, talk about some of their ECW time, obviously their influence in WWE and beyond that. So we are really excited to be here with you guys talking about that. Vito, that was an incredible technical magic wizardry right there, man. That was amazing.
Mikey Cash, get the tables. Sorry, I had to do it. Super lame, but I had to,
I probably should open with that. I just, you know.
It's okay. I got your back here. I got your back. No, listen, the Dudley Boys are one of my favorite tag teams of all time, Mikey Cash. Love them. I watched ECW. We all know, if you've been a fan of the podcast, Big Vito loves himself some ECW. And I loved the Dudley Boys. Let me put this way. I hated the Dudley Boys in ECW because they are probably one of the best, if not the best, heel tag team in the history of wrestling. If you go back and watch ECW, right? DVon had the stuttering gimmick, which I alluded to a minute ago. And they were absolutely hated. There were multiple times where DVon would come out and they would use F-bomb after F-bomb after expletive after expletive. And they had so much heat from the ECW crowd. There were times where Paul Heyman and their tag team their tag team they were going against, I think it was a couple times it was RVD and Sabu, were super nervous because they were afraid fans were going to jump the railings, which at that time in ECW was not unheard of. And what the other piece I will tell you is being a heel in ECW is harder than being a heel in WWE, WWF, or WCW. And the reason is because ECW fans love the bad guy, right? They just loved the bad guy. And for them to be have so much heat on them was pretty unbelievable. So their run in ECW was phenomenal. And I'm just going to start there. But overall, their career, I would tell you, if you're going to go by tag team titles, they're probably the most decorated tag team when it comes to titles. I don't go by titles when it comes to wrestling because I don't feel that you should. It's not like a Super Bowl. I go by my emotional attachment to whether I hate, love a superstar or tag team. And I just feel as though the Dudleys kind of had it all when it came to wrestling. So I think they're already Hall of Famers, right? Mm-hmm. I think that they are very influential in wrestling, not just from a tag team standpoint, but I think they have a wrestling school. Bubba Ray is a coach on LFG. He's on a podcast. He's still relevant in wrestling. I think he's a great wrestling mind. So that's my feelings on the Dudleys. Before we kind of go down memory lane more, please tell me your thoughts on the Dudley Boyz.
It doesn't matter what your opinion is. So for me, I when we were talking about the Hardys, I was really into it because I was a huge Hardy Boys fan. With the Dudleys, they were like a different flavor to me, and I think it's because they were way more hardcore, and it was just something that I would at least at that time I like I thought it was cool that they put people through tables, but like other than that, I felt like I wasn't paying a lot of attention to like their characters and their background. I didn't watch any of their ECW stuff, so I didn't have what you had, which was like all of that background. So when they finally got to the WWF, you're thinking to yourself, this is awesome. Like they've made it to the big time. They've done all this. So I had to like almost work backwards. I was watching their stuff in WWE, and then later on when they would release all like the ECW DVDs like years later, I would watch some of their stuff from that. And you're right. Like the fact that they could get themselves booed in an environment like ECW is incredible and was a real testament to the work that they had to do. And yeah, like they had to drop a lot of F bombs, but it wasn't just F bombs. It was pretty cancelable stuff from 2025 standards, I guess you could say. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, they were able to get themselves booed, and I think that when I watched that, I don't want to get too ahead in the timeline here, but I think it laid some groundwork for things that I saw from the Dudleys later on in their careers, specifically when they were in TNA.
Sure.
And so I'm able I unfortunately unlike you, I didn't get to watch it in the moment, like as a kid and enjoy it, but
Yeah.
like later on with like this kind of different lens, I was able to watch it. And it's good. It's great.
Yeah. If you go back and watch the ECW stuff, like it's hard to go back and watch it because there's like a timeline gap. It's not like you go to Raw, that SmackDown, this
Right.
pay-per-view. Like they kind of are sporadic in their tapings and how things
Mhm.
are spread out. But if you go back and watch, the Dudleys are prevalent in all the major pay-per-views that they have, right? And their vicious side was so vicious, like it was at another level. So well, before I get to this next point of when they got to WWF, one thing we're missing is they had this whole Dudley universe where they had like Big Dick Dudley, Spike Dudley, and one of my
The whole
favorite,
family.
yeah, one of my favorite pieces is Spike Dudley because they used to throw Spike into the crowd all the time, and it is awesome. Like it is great, and they carried that into WWE too. But
Mhm.
it was a great moment. Anyways, so when they came over to WWF at the time when ECW went out of business, there were a few wrestlers who came. They were one of the few that could make that transition, and I was a little
Mhm.
bit shocked because I didn't think the way that they went the way that they presented themselves in ECW, they couldn't do in WWF, right? They could still have that edge, but they couldn't be as edgy as they were in WCW or ECW. So how do they translate that? And they did a really good job of translating that, right? They originally started with the Devon stutter gimmick, and it didn't work. They got rid of it, and they started on their tag team journey with like Edge and Christian and the Hardys, which we talked about this in the Hardy podcast spotlight episode. They kind of all complemented each other. And I think that was a big part of the start of their career. The other piece when they get into WWF is they started doing this thing where Devon got hypnotized. Do you remember when like the women would come out like that at that time, putting a woman through a table was very risque. And he did it to Trish, he did it to Lita, he did it to Terry Reynolds, he did it to, and the most vicious one was Mae Young, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember when he did that to Mae Young, it was like this huge controversy, but like Mae Young wanted it to happen. Like she was
Mhm.
the one who wanted it to happen. They do a story on the Dudleys on I think it's with JR or it's with oh my gosh, who's Bruce Pritchard, and they talk. I think it's Bruce Pritchard's podcast. They talk about the Dudleys, and he specifically talks about this moment and how Mae Young wanted him to do it a specific way, and like they wanted to practice, and she didn't want practice. She goes, just do it the hard way, and it would ended up being like that moment gave you that vicious side of the Dudleys that you saw in ECW without going to that extreme of dropping F-bombs. And I just remember the moment, like every time a woman would come by and he saw a table, he got like this hypnotic look in his eyes. And I remember that specifically. Stacy Keibler was another one. And then they ended up teaming with Stacy Keibler. She was the manager for them. So that's kind of my 2 cents with all of it.
I think you're spot on with it, that it was a real testament to their ability as performers to shift how they were going to present themselves with the same like violence and the same hard-hitting style that people were accustomed to.
Yeah.
And how do we get that heat, but in a different way?
Yep.
Because I think you can fall prey as a wrestler to, and we've seen it happen on TV, right? Like we're two guys that don't wrestle talking about wrestling, but like watching it, it's a real testament to them to be able to adapt to the environment that you're in.
Yeah,
because you can become one note, where you know it's that like one trick pony kind of saying, right? Where I can only do it this way, and that's to something you were saying earlier. That's what happened to a lot of the ECW guys that came into WWE, and not just WWE, but WCW and beyond. There was a struggle to, okay, I have to change things up, but I don't really know how. I don't know how to do it in a successful way. And the Dudleys are a great example of how you do that.
Yeah, they had to stay within these lines where in ECW they didn't have those lines. So it really kind of separated a lot of the people. And the Dudleys, you're right, came out successful. One thing I will note, when they first came in, they had their like overall gimmick with the glasses and everything, and it didn't go over. And they changed, and this is a simple little change, but they changed to that all camo gear. Do you remember? And like that is what you remember from the Dudleys in WWE is that gear. But if you were a true Dudleys person, you would go back and you would see them in like their overalls, and like the glasses and everything. And it just, those little simple changes kind of helped, right? They had to go with the times. They made a little bit of change, and it was definitely, they did a good job doing it. So they had this great run in WWE for, I don't know, maybe 6 years. And I remember they tried to put Bubba Ray in like a singles match, and Devon had that like priest gimmick with Batista.
Yeah, that was the one thing that came out of it.
And his didn't take off, and they like Bubba was getting was putting over other talents that weren't that great. I think they get frustrated and they leave WWE in 2005, right? And they go to TNA, and they go back to their kind of Dudley style, and they get rebranded because they can't go by the Dudleys, they go by Team 3D, which is very similar. And speaking of the 3D, before we go further, do you know the 3D is one of the only maneuvers that no one has kicked out of? Not once.
What? Really?
Yeah. You know, all these years, you know, everyone gives their finisher and they kick out, and they have to give like 3 finishers now. No one has ever kicked out of the 3D.
No way.
Go look it up. If there was one person, but I'm pretty sure it was either they talked about doing it or not. But it was a very protected finish. And I will tell you, it is one of the best finishes in my opinion. I love it.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah,
the coolest tag team finish ever.
Arguably, I would put the death device from the Legion of Doom up there with one of the best. I love that one. I love that move.
I actually go Dudleys on that one.
Debatable. If you're listening, give us a comment down in the comment section. Let us know the death device or the 3D. But the 3D through the table, oof, that's something else.
You can't beat that.
No. So anyways, they go on to TNA. Do you remember their run from TNA? I think this was a time when I watched a lot of
this
TNA.
was during my my years where I was really not watching a lot of TNA at all. I was barely watching WWE at that point. So I was definitely not watching a lot of their stuff. But I heard about it, and I'll let you talk to most of it, but there's the one part where I started to come back when I saw what Bubba was doing.
Yeah, so 2005, they were in TNA for like a longer time than you think. You probably just don't associate the Dudley tag team because most of it was single run.
Right.
So they come in 2005. They dominated the tag team division. They won multiple championships. But then they go on a singles run. And they were in TNA for like 9 years. And they go on, Bully Ray goes on a single run and actually is pretty impressive, right? I would tell you it's similar to like the Matt and Jeff Hardy piece, where he goes on and has a pretty successful singles run as Bully Ray. And kind of basically gave a big FU to the WWF with that. And then I would tell you one of their more memorable pieces is the Aces and Eights. Is that what you were going to talk about?
Yeah, I thought that was one of the better parts of the singles run for Bubba Ray. When you compare it to the WWE run, it was like maybe a year. It was like less than that, and then they reunited at like a Survivor Series or something. But this was much different. I think this continues to make me love TNA now when I look back on it, because TNA was willing to take chances. And for better or for worse, they were willing to let people experiment with things. So I think because of that, you got to see, Bubba Ray turn into the Bully Ray character, where it was him maybe tapping into a little bit more of that like OG ECW spirit in terms of his violence in the style that he wrestled. But you also saw a guy who's now a veteran. He's now been around for a while. So I thought his promos were great. I thought what they did with Aces and Eights was really well. I know, a faction like that, same thing with the NWO, like it can only get so big before it kind of starts to fall apart. But I thought for a time it was really one of the best things in wrestling. And I really, to his credit, I mean, he was the head of all of that. I almost said head of the table. I'm just sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on all of that. And again, I think if you are not getting somewhere in a promotion, luckily they had TNA there. TNA should get a lot more credit than they have, because they were at a time when WWE was the only promotion. They gave people the spotlight to go out there and try something different. The Kurt Angles, the Matt Morgans, the Hardys, the Dudleys, Sting, like there was no other promotion that they could go to, right? And so I give them a lot of credit for doing that. But they went out, they did their run for 9 years and got to try new things. But what's great about when wrestlers go off, it builds up the suspense because you are craving more, right? And ultimately, like the Hardys, they come back in 2015. And they're there for a 3-year run, and wrestling a good amount. And again, they got to go against teams like the New Day. They got to go against the Usos and other teams like that, where you may not get that chance, right? And it was great to see that, and they still did well. Like they put on some good matches. They were never the best technical wrestlers. They were never the best like high flyers, but they knew how to perform. They were kind of like the opposite of the Hardys, right? Hardys high flyers, right? Edge and Christian are the technical wrestlers, and then you got the Dudley Boyz who knew how to perform. You got emotion from Bubba Ray. You can actually see it when he coaches in LFG. He talks a lot about the performance and all of that. And it's cool to see. It's like 3 different aspects all colliding at once. And so they have their run They come back, which I was pumped about it. I also didn't know because they came back on Raw after WrestleMania, if I remember.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was right after. It was right. It was the Raw after, I believe. I don't think it was at.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe you're right. But then in 2018, they got inducted into the Hall of Fame. And they ended up having over 20 plus championships. If you count that, that's pretty impressive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're 20-time champions all through different promotions. I think they're the only championship they didn't have was WCW tag team champions. Unless they won it. Yeah, okay.
Well, right. Hold on. Sound like Oscar from The Office. Well, actually, so Survivor Series 01, when they had that whole invasion thing going on, where it was like WCW and ECW, they had all these unification matches that night, and the Dudleys beat the Hardys for that, which is on my list of matches that people should check out because it's a really, really great match.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, so we kind of talk about their career, what are some matches that you remember them by? Like, so that's one that you said you would have them check out.
So that one, fantastic. I think we mentioned it in the Hardy Boyz one too, but TLC 2, WrestleMania 17, you should really check that out. I want to say that people should go and watch the Triangle Ladder match from WrestleMania 2000 the year before, because that, if you kind of want to see how they built a foundation that they sort of expanded off of, like in the next year, I think you watch them in sequential order. Watch the Triangle Ladder match from 2000 and then watch the TLC match at WrestleMania 17, and I think you'll see like a noticeable difference in a great way, to see the psychology that was there, despite some of the critiques that people gave it, because it was just one big, like they call it the spot fest. I think there was a lot more psychology there than people gave it credit for.
Yeah, and I would tell you, I think a lot of it comes down. I think Bubba Ray was really the catalyst to that team. Not that DVon was bad, but I think Bubba Ray is a brilliant wrestling mind. Sometimes too much. Like, I think he gives himself too much credit. But I think he's pretty good and does a great job with the psychology in the ring and the performance piece, like I talked about. But I would tell you, if I was given recommendations, I don't think you're going to top those ladder matches, the TLC matches. Like, just again, we talked about it before, but it's such a unique, game-changing performance that changed the tag team industry. I really truthfully believe that. But go back and watch their ECW stuff. Like I said, the heat they got was unbelievable. There's other tag team matches. I can't remember a bunch of them off the top of my head in WCW or ECW, but RVD and Sabu, I think, is one you definitely want to go back and look at.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you, because do you know what the name of that pay-per-view was that they wrestled on?
Heat Wave.
WrestlePalooza.
Well, that's coming up.
New again, baby.
Yeah, reliving the glory days. But no, I would put the Dudleys as one of the top tier, if not the best tag team of all time. It's hard. Like, you can sit here and compare people all you want. It's hard when there's just different styles and different attributes. You have some teams that are better performers, some that are better wrestlers, some that just their aura, like Legion of Doom, like they weren't very good wrestlers, but they kind of had the Hulk Hogan factor. That's how I'll put it. Like, they got this huge pop and the larger than life characters that people just loved.
Well, I think it's sort of like, what is a good wrestler, right? Like, the wrestler, it's all about the style, and did the style work for what they were given to you, and for the Dudleys, their style worked for them. Other guys, it doesn't always translate, but that it worked for them. And if I can offer one more match that I want people to check out, the Royal Rumble 2000 is a tables match against the Hardys, is really cool. Some awesome segments during that match that I think people should enjoy.
Okay. No, those are good recommendations. And I'm sure there's a lot more that we might be missing out on.
Too many.
And again, if you're watching,
too many.
Right. Yeah. And if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a comment below on some matches maybe we missed. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. One thing we forgot to mention as we wind this episode down is, after their run in WWE, I think Devon had some health issues and kind of still does. I don't know to what degree, but Devon was a producer behind the scenes for WWE for a while.
Yep.
And he had some health issues. So you haven't seen them wrestle very much. So this Bound for Glory pay-per-view that's coming up with the match between the Hardys and the Dudleys, which we're lucky enough to be a part of and going to go see. It probably is going to be their last match together.
Absolutely.
I can't see them having another match just because of his health situation. I'm not going to say Bubba Ray won't have another match. I'm not saying the Hardys won't have another match, but this is the last time you're going to see that. And I think it's a pretty special moment.
Yeah. There's that, like, I'm really excited about it. And I have that little part of my heart that feels like there's two people missing. And I know it can't happen, but it's just that little part of my heart's like, I'd kill for a 5-second pause. So,
yeah, what would be pretty amazing is if AEW let them come back. They're reformed as a tag team now in AEW, maybe just for like a little bit of interference or something. I don't know. Probably not.
It would be cool, but I'm still excited with what we're getting. I'm not gonna poo-poo on it just because we're not getting all of
it. Yeah, because that you don't always get it. You don't always get it. We never got Hogan Austin.
No,
it just never will happen. So,
I know. Well, I don't have any other final thoughts on it except I'm just excited to see it.
Yeah, me too. Agreed.
Well, outside of us going to see this match, we're actually going to be going with our oft co-host Sarge to go see John Cena's final appearance at the Boston TD Garden on November 10th. And we're hoping to have some new episodes for you guys out after Bound for Glory. We're going to talk about that Raw, just what it's going to be like, what the atmosphere is going to be like to see Cena that last time. But we're excited for what's coming your way, guys. And we hope that you continue to enjoy what you're listening to. If you have any comments about what matches we might have missed out, matches that, kind of deep in the vault, let us know. We want to check it out. So we enjoyed it. We hope you guys enjoyed it. And until next time, keep on strutting, jabronis.